welcome to my channel. Today we are going to learn about how to upload files in S3 bucket using Golang, right? So I just created a mind map of what are we going to do here. Before starting the mind map, let us see first the concepts, what we are going to learn from here. So we are going to learn about concurrency in sense concurrently accessing the files or concurrently doing some operations, right? We are going to learn about how to connect to S3 using Golang program. We are going to learn about IOUtil package through which we can read some files, and also we are going to learn about strings package through which we can do some operations here, right? So we'll see here what are the usage of these concepts which we are going to learn here, right? Let us come to the place where we can see here this AWS S3 upload, right? The first thing we should be knowing is config credentials in AWS, So config credentials is simply nothing major like AWS access keys and AWS secret keys, right? Through which we can create a session, and in this session what we're going to do is we are going to use those config credentials and we're going to connect to the AWS services, which is in this scenario is S3. And after that we are going to call a upload job, right? It's kind of a function majorly. So let us see the function also, what it does. So in this function, right, we have taken few things. First is like this function is expecting a AWS session, right? So whatever the session it created here, right, it is going to take this session so that it can understand, okay, now I have connected to AWS services, let us now start doing operations, right? So it first needs this sessions. Now on the upload details, right, we have thought of the scenario like, okay, let me say like if I want to upload a particular file, right, what should I do? Or if I want to upload a list of files with some pattern. So example here we have taken test.zip, right? So for example, I have a directory which has multiple zip files, okay? And I want to select all those zip files from that directory and upload to S3 bucket, okay? Those such scenarios. If there is a concurrency level which we can set, right, that we can do, okay? If we want to set any size, part size, for example, like 5 MB, okay? What do you mean by part size? Say I have a file with a size of say 50 MB in this example, and I given a part size of 5 MB, that means it will divide that 50 MB into 10 parts, right? And it will upload. So instead of having one big chunk of 50 MB and uploading to S3, I'm just putting into smaller pieces which will be helpful for uploading, right? Great. Next thing is I want to use some method, right, through which we can get these at least details like what are the AWS bucket name, what are the access control list we want to see and set, what are the content of the file, or what are the name of the file, right? And once everything is done, right, we can see the locations, okay, that okay, the file location is this, right? And on top of everything we are going to apply concurrency. The reason being, if we have multiple files, for example in this scenario we have said test.zip, assume we have test1.zip, test2.zip and all those, right? So they are not dependent on each other. So this is a very good candidate for applying concurrency, right? Okay, now about this theory, right, it's almost done. We have make one more thing where we have taken the scenario. For example, we want to filter out the zip files. As we said, there are multiple zips actually in the directory. what should we do? So our goal here should be, we should be matching some pattern, right? For example, zip is a pattern, right? Or tar.zz is a pattern. I want to match in a pattern and put that in a kind of slice. Slice is nothing but a version of array in Golang, where slice is more flexible rather than array. So in Golang we use more slice, right? So now coming to the functions, what kind of function does it have? So we have few options here. One is called filepath.workfunc. So it displays the list of files, right, in that directory, okay, and it just returns an error. It does not returns much more anything here. There is one more option called io-util read directory, okay. It gives us a sorted list of all the names present, okay. And we have also one more function which is like a strings package, okay, where we can see strings.contain, which returns a boolean value. We can use that and we can get the files which we want. So without further ado, right, let us jump to the example and see how we are going to start with it. So let us start the basic structure actually. So here we see there is a line where we have written package main. Okay, the package main actually tells the compiler that it should be as an executable program instead of as a shared library. You should compile as an executable program actually. Okay, great. So this is the bare minimum thing which we need here. So let us start first with what we want actually. We want a session first, right? So let us set the session first. And here we are using AWS SDK Go package, right? And with this AWS SDK Go package, we have this config. Let us use that. So let me say the region I want to use as US East 1. But there is a thing. So region is expecting a pointer to a string, okay, and what we have given is example US East 1 is a string. So we have a method from AWS, right, where it says AWS string. It takes a string and returns a pointer to a string which satisfies the region, right? So that's how we convert. Okay, great. Now about the credentials. Okay, let us see the credentials. Credentials also another package which is available under the AWS SDK Go. Okay, now let me see my path where I have put my credentials. Okay, you can see here the credentials are here. Okay, so this is my path where this credentials is present. Great. Now the file name is credentials, where you used to save the access keys, right? So every access keys is different. Your guy's access key will be different. So there you need to set the access keys. And the profile which is required here, I have set the profile as default. Under the default, I have used this. Okay. Now, let us create a session. And the new session is asking for a configuration which I have already passed in this config, but it is looking for a pointer to a AWS config. So this is not a pointer, right? This is like a config as a variable. So let us use the ampersand, which can give me a pointer to this config. So yep, we got this. So okay, I can do this for now as an fnt print line, right? However, you can also use a log. Log will be much better. to just print out the logs with the date timestamp. Okay, great. So now we have got the session. Let me print that starting file upload. Okay. So that means we are now starting the file upload. Okay, we need somebody to use the session. Now remember here what we said, we're going to create a session and then we're going to call the function which does the upload job, right? So that means we need a function who does this upload job. So let me create one function called upload job, which takes a session, which is nothing but a session pointer. Okay, now if I pass this upload job with session, it's happy, it's not complaining. Okay, now my goal here is, in this upload job, what we're going to do, we are going to put this upload details wherever we have. We want to see that methods where we can pass these details of the AWS bucket and the list, and finally we want to get the S3 locations, right? Great. Before coming to the upload job, right, our thing should be here like upload details. It is expecting some files like maybe test.zip or the file part size and everything, right? That we can take part later, but this thing has to be taken first. Like, what are the files I'm going to upload? Okay, so for that reason, right, let me create also one more function, which is nothing but it is going to list out the files which we have used. So list out files, so for example, as is given here, right? Now what is expecting? It is expecting nothing. Okay, it just goes and checks a file, but what it is going to return me, right, that is interesting. So I want a list, say give me a list, okay, which is your string type, a slice of string. Okay, so that means, for example, under this particular directory, okay, what are the files are there, it is going to list me out. Now you can use a directory as in like the current working directory, or you can use a directory path also. Okay, so for example, I want to use this list of this directory file. What I should be using is ioutil.read directory. That's a package which I'm going to use. Okay. It's telling me as a thing. Okay. So on a read directory, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give the directory name. As you can see for the definition, it returns a slice of the file info, okay, and returns an error. So I've taken both them, files and the error. Okay. Now in the read directory, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to read the current directory, whatever is here. Okay. I'm going to handle the error. Let me use the log.printf. What I'm going to say here is unable to read okay. Let me wrap the error with %w and let me print the actual error. Okay. So now if I am not able to read the files in this directory for some reason, then it should be printing out this error. Okay. Great. Now I have now the files. This should be giving the files to me. Okay, so I want to list over this, I want to range over this file. So let me put a range, which is nothing but it is going to list over the files. Okay, now here what I need to do is, whatever the files are here, right, if the files are zip file, okay, I want to check only the zip file, not anything beyond. Okay, now this will give me all the files, right? However, I want only zip files. So let me just take a list again, right? This is a slice of string. Okay. My goal here is only take the zip file. So I'm going to use a string package. Okay. So if string dot contains, the string here is this. So the files, when we are ranging over the files, right, it gives us a string. So here f is a string. Okay. So I want to use f dot name, right? Because you can see here the read directory, it's going to give you as a file list info, okay, and that has a name which is a string, right? So I'm going to use this name with string. So if the file contains the string, say for example what are the files are, right, and on top of it I want to see only the zip files, right? So on the substring level I'm going to use a zip, right? And if they are true, that means if the file name contains zip, right, all I need is I want to append that into the newly created list. Okay. So now what are the elements I'm going to add here? It's simple, the f dot name. Okay. So f dot name, if contains zip, right, then you're going to add that into a new list, right? And all I'm going to do here is I'm going to return this new zip. Okay, I have given a new list here. Let me give a new zip. And since new zip is initialized, so I don't need to reinitialize it again. Okay. Let us see the upload job section. Okay. So upload job section, what we are going to use here is whatever the files is being exposed by this list out files, like as in return this slices of the files, right? We're going to utilize that. So how are we going to utilize that? Let me create a new list again. Okay. And this time it is going to use the list out files. Okay. Whatever slice of string it is giving, it is passing to this new list. Okay. And on top of it, what I'm going to do here is we are going to range over the new list. So that means now I have the names of the file. For example, test.1, test1.zip, test2.zip, whatever the thing are, it's being now there. And this v is that file name, the string. Okay, great. So that means we can open this file. So we have this os.open package. Okay, and here we are just passing the v as in the file name. Okay, here v is say test1.zip or test2.zip or anything. Okay, great. So let me handle the error here. I'm going to use here normal error. You can just use logs or any things like, okay, the file cannot be opened, any kind of error message. Okay, great. What I'm going to do now is just printing out the error. So now this file, right, which I have currently, this do have the names, and I can use greatly to upload this to the S3 manager. Before that, we're going to see one more concept, which is called S3 manager new uploader. So here we can see that our AWS SDK Go, right, have given as a S3 manager package which helps us in uploading and concurrently uploading the files to S3 bucket. Okay, so we are going to use along the similar lines and see what is going to happen here. So let me use an uploader, okay, and S3 manager dot new uploader. It is expecting a client configuration and a function. Now client configuration we have already seen in this, all those AWS config, regions, credentials we already passed, and we have created a session. And so you're going to use this session only. So same session. And now one more thing is optional. So it says what you're going to use here is, we have said here in this diagram that if we want to apply any concurrency level, or if you want to apply any default size, for example 5 MB or 10 MB, right, for the breaking the piece of chunk, okay, we're going to use that. So let me do that also. So what I'm going to do here is, we are going to create a function. Okay, I'm going to give a name called u as an uploader. Okay, so u dot part size. So I'm saying the part size example 10 MB. So 10 into 20, 1024 into 1024, that makes 10 MB, bytes into MB, right? And I'm going to set the concurrency level, say example 2, right? And I'm going to max upload parts also. If I'm going to set, say example, I'm saying 10, just a random numbers, So here you can see the definitions from this max upload parts and S3 managers, right? We can see from this upload manager SDK documentation, which I will be sharing in the link description of this video. Now I have the uploader, right, who can upload this task, right? So let us see here. Let me start uploading now. It takes an input, okay, and in this input I'm going to use the S3 manager upload input. Now here we are passing the required details, which we have said in the diagram that we need to find a method where we can pass the required details like AWS bucket, access control list, and the file contents and everything, right? So let us see here the bucket name. What we're going to do here is, we're going to use the AWS string method as always, because the bucket name is expecting a pointer to a string, right? Okay, so for this example I have taken the bucket name as my awesome bucket with some random characters, as we always know that this has to be unique, right? So I have taken this bucket name. Great. So now this gives me the bucket name. Okay, next is I want the access control list, right? So access control list, again I'm looking for public read, just for the example, right? So I'm going to use public read as the access control list. The body, where the things will be containing, right, I'm going to use the file. Okay, so whatever the file here, you can see it turns from red to grayed out, right? So the file here is example the test1.zip or test2.zip, right? These files are the body here. Okay, and what is the key? The key name we are going to use here, the value. Okay, so this guy contains all those values. Great. So now we have prepared ourselves that okay, we can upload this guy. Now the only thing here is, what are the results contain actually. Now this method will return two things. One is upload output and error. Okay, and what does the upload output? It's a pointer. Okay, so you can see here upload output returns location, version, upload ID, e tag. What we are concerned about the location. Okay, great. So let me print this guy, location. Okay, so now our work is ready. Okay, before concurrency, right, our work is ready. Let us try and execute how this works out. Okay, so we have seen here, we have kept 4 files, test1.zip, test2.zip, right? Let me run this practice.go, okay, and see how it behaves. Notice here it is taking a little bit of time to upload these files. Okay, the reason being, we have taken one file who is little big in size and the other files which are less big in size, and that comes the reason of having the concurrency. In this example, while it is running, we're going to explain here. In this example, what we have done is we have iterated over this list, new list, which has all those zip files, test1, test2 and everything, right? Now if one file is big, right, then the other files we have to wait for the other files also. Okay, and that is kind of a not dependent on each other, right? Test1 is not dependent on test2. We are simply hanging over, right? So let us see the files location in the AWS S3 bucket also. Okay, let me log in. After login, we can see here all the files are listing here. Okay, let me do one more thing. Let me see the versions here and let me try to delete all of them again. Okay, and just try to rerun it. And then what we're going to do is we are going to apply concurrency so that no file should be dependent on each other, right? So there will be concurrently go routines spawned. For example, one for test1, one for test2, one for the big lifting files, right? So my total output of the files will be much more faster. Okay, now we can see here in this bucket all the files are came here. Now this AWS CLI, this is only 45 MB, rest all are 0 bytes. Okay, so in this first example, what we see, this AWS CLI has to first upload, then only these things are coming, right? Which is like halting the process. So let us apply concurrency on top of it, right? And we are going to see how we are going to do that. So we're going to use wait group concept here. Okay, wait group is nothing but it just spawns the go routines and it makes sure that all the go routines are closed before it exits the program, right? Now to apply the go routine, right, we're going to use, as I said, a wait group. So where are you going to apply the wait group? So in the upload job, right, we see the new list. Okay, this is the guy where it takes all the files, right? Let us apply the wait group here. To have that, we're just going to declare a variable called wg and sync.waitGroup. Okay, and its syntax is very simple. Okay, what you're going to do is inside this we are going to add a delta. So it's nothing but whatever the how many number of coroutines we are going to spawn here, we just declare. I just said just one. Okay, okay. Now this is a little refactoring of the code because we are going to use go function, which is nothing but an anonymous function, or we can call as helping us for go routines things. So let me cut all those details, whatever is here, right, and paste it under this go routine. Right, now you can see here that I have done everything, but it shows me a little error here. So I need to create an intermediate variable because this variable is not accessible here, right? Let me create an intermediate variable through which I can access this file into this go function. Okay. Now, once I did this wg add, all I need to do is I need to wait until all the go routines is completed. What I need to do here is, once this in the for loop is finishing, I will be using a wait. Okay, and also I need to make sure that after everything is completed, right, it should done. Is it done with it, right? And we are using defer to make sure that once everything is completed, it should automatically make that wait group counter to be 0. So how wait group says how many go routines it spawned, and it reduces the number of counter like 3, 2, 1, and then it got 0, and then it exits. Okay, so now we have make the counter to be 0. Okay, I hope the program is okay. Okay, let me go and delete everything from here once more. Great. So you can see there is no files. Now let me go and run this same program. Now you can see that test1, test2 and test3, these files, since there are 0 bytes, right, they uploaded first. Okay, and the AWS CLI, which is of 45 MB, it is now taking time. So that's the beauty of concurrency here. It does not wait for the one to be completed. It sees whichever the resources are free, it uploads it. Okay, now if we go here and we can see that all the files are completed. Okay, so this is all about uploading files, multiple files to S3, matching a pattern, and we are doing it concurrently. I hope the video is informative. Thank you.